Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is David Vidal. This is my personal channel, Socials Awkward, and it is still storming in my neck of the woods. So I thought it would be a great opportunity to make a video addressing this argument about what we are as T-Rex riders. Let's go. So what are we anyways? Are we pilots? Are we mariners? Are we drivers? Are we riders? Are we bikers? Like we don't really. One of the things I first realized in this T-Rex community is we don't really even know what to call ourselves or how to classify what it is that we're doing. Are we driving? Are we riding? What are we doing? The T-Rex is not a car. Anybody who owns one will tell you that driving one is so much different than driving a car, even a supercar. It's very, very different. It's not a motorcycle. And obviously, it's not an airplane, and it's not a boat, so we're not any of those things. It's not a side-by-side. Some people say it's a trike. Some people say it's a reverse trike. So where do we turn? How do we figure out what we are? Well, originally, the T-Rex was classified as a motorcycle. That is, you needed a Class M motorcycle license if you're here in the States, and you had to wear a helmet if you lived in a state where helmet laws applied. So that has been changed. It's no longer that way any longer. You don't need a motorcycle license to ride a T-Rex any longer. And I'm not sure that was the best idea. I use a lot of the skills I learned on a motorcycle. I have been able to translate them over to my T-Rex life, and I think it's really, really important. I'm not sure that was the best idea. I do like having it reclassified, but that motorcycle training is imperative if you're out in a machine like the T-Rex. But that's not really what this video is about. So it's not classified as a motorcycle anymore in most states, if not all. Most states, it's classified as an autocycle. The government had to create a path for all of these kind of interesting new vehicles that are on the road. We're not the only ones. Vanderhall has one. Obviously, there's the Slingshot. And there are a bunch of side-by-sides and other of these kind of different vehicles that are on the roads. And, this isn't a UTV. It's kind of in its own little thing. It's kind of its own little world. But they call it an autocycle, which actually only complicates things because now it's definitely split in half. If it's an autocycle, well, what is it? Is it a car or is it a bike? What do we call ourselves? Now, while I think this doesn't actually matter, I just think this would be a fun video for us to kind of talk about. It doesn't really matter what we call ourselves. But those who argue that the T-Rex is a car point out that it has a steering wheel. They also say that because we're in a seated position, that it is a car. However, I would argue that you sit on a motorcycle and you sit in any vehicle or any machine that you're going to be out on the road. You're going to sit in that thing. To my knowledge, there's no machine that you can stand up in. So I think that's kind of a moot point. They also say, well, it's got 3 wheels, so it doesn't count as a motorcycle, or because you and your passenger ride side by side, that's why it's not a motorcycle. And I think those are all very good arguments, but I think the most cogent argument that you could make that the T-Rex is not a motorcycle is that other bikers refuse to wave to you. I have like hours and hours of stock footage of passing motorcycles where I'll give them the, yeah, hey, what's up? And we're out here together or whatever. And they just refuse to wave. So I think if you're going to make a case that the T-Rex is not a motorcycle, I think that's what you should base your argument on, that other motorcycle riders will not wave at you. And then there are those who would argue that the T-Rex is more or less a motorcycle. I myself refer to the T-Rex as a bike because it's built on a motorcycle platform. So the nuts and bolts, like everything that matters most about the T-Rex is more closely related to a motorcycle than it is a car. Also, it's got the 1400RR motor in it. It's a motorcycle engine mounted as a motorcycle engine would mount on a rear tire that works on a chain-driven system. So to that end, it is absolutely a motorcycle. I would also argue that three-wheeled motorcycles have been around forever. They're called trikes, and they are well recognized in motorcycle clubs and motorcycle groups and riders. We all refer to people who ride on trikes as bikers. It opened up a door for disabled vets and people who have all kinds of different reasons why maybe it's just less intimidating, wanted to be involved in the biker culture, but for whatever reason didn't want to buy a two-wheeled motorcycle. I mean, even Harley Davidson makes trikes. I would argue that trikes are considered motorcycles, even though our two wheels on the T-Rex are up front, obviously. But I don't think that just having three wheels automatically disqualifies you from being considered a motorcycle. And although you have a steering wheel in the T-Rex, anybody who has ridden in the T-Rex will tell you that steering a T-Rex is not like steering a car. It's got the stability of these two wheels up in front, so that feels like you're locked in to the road. But just over your shoulder is the motor and that one wheel in the back. And when you corner and when you're changing lanes and maneuvering around, it's the agility, the feeling. It feels more like a motorcycle than it does a car or even a supercar. And, my motorcycle friends argue that, well, when you're on a bike, you actually lean into your corners. You can actually, you physically turn. And yeah, you don't do that in the T-Rex. You don't actually physically turn, but that's the strangest thing. And one of the coolest things about why the T-Rex feels so unique is that when you come around a corner in a T-Rex, yeah, you've got that steering wheel, but everything from the center point and back feels more like a motorcycle. It doesn't feel exactly like a motorcycle. It's very hard to describe. It's a very unique feeling, but it feels more like a motorcycle than it does a car. And so again, I think that's why some T-Rex owners would refer to themselves as riders rather than drivers. And while I would refrain from rolling up to an MC and demanding respect, I don't suggest anybody does that. You don't want to just jump into a group and be like, hey, I'm part of your group. I do think that riding more accurately describes what it is we're doing on a T-Rex rather than driving, even though this argument really doesn't matter. It doesn't really make any sense to have it, but it's a fun conversation to have. My final bit of evidence is that when you get pulled over in your T-Rex, and if you haven't, you will. First of all, they're really, really fast. Second, you feel so confident in this machine that it's nothing to be just kind of zipping around. The other thing is that this engine is so powerful. This 1400RR is unreal. I mean, you move a centimeter on the gas pedal and you're up 10 or 15 miles per hour in a heartbeat. It just happens so fast. And so it's just really easy. On top of that, the T-Rex looks like it's going 100 miles an hour when it's just at a stoplight. So you do attract a lot of that kind of attention. All eyes on you, right? The police are looking at you. So sometimes they're just curious. Sometimes the police are just like, hey, what is this thing? Is it legal for you to be out here? Because they don't know everything about everything. So you will get pulled over in your T-Rex. And if you're unfortunate enough to receive a ticket, you will notice, as my case in point right here, that the police say that the T-Rex is a motorcycle. So when you get ticketed on your T-Rex, they are going to check the box that says motorcycle, and you're going to get the fines and all the penalties that apply to a motorcycle. So I know you don't need a motorcycle license to drive it anymore. I do think it's a good idea to have some motorcycle training. I'll explain that in another video, why I think it's so important. And for you T-Rex riders who have never been on a motorcycle or got into this platform because it was less intimidating or maybe it was less dangerous or whatever it is that you think that it was, we should probably have a conversation about why it's important to understand those motorcycle skills in something like a T-Rex, especially if you want to be counted among that group. You need to understand that culture. That'll also keep you from getting sideways with some of these MCs, which is rare, but possible. So anyways, what do you think? I would love to hear your arguments. I know I didn't mention a bunch. I just talked about the ones that I hear the most, but I know there's other arguments about why you think it's a car or why you think it's a motorcycle. But man, let's jam up that comment section. I would love to hear somebody on the outside looking in what you would call a T-Rex rider. And obviously, for those who have probably the biggest dog in the fight, is the actual T-Rex owners themselves. What do you call yourself? Do you call yourself a driver? Do you call yourself a rider? How do you refer to the time that you spend on your T-Rex? As always, I hope that you guys ride safe. I hope that you have an awesome week wherever it is that you are, and I hope to see you on the road. All right, ride safely.